When I was visiting my ex-husband's parents, they lived in a community that was said to have been built on ancient Indian burial grounds. Not sure if it was true or not, but anyway, my first night in that house, his parents tried to spook me out by saying the house was haunted. I already believed in the paranormal, but some PPL like to mock, and I honestly thought that's what they were doing. One night we slept in the guest room downstairs that had tile floors. I was woken up by the sound of heavy boots. This sound was coming from the other side of the door, so I thought maybe his father was up playing a joke, or whatever. I tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't for some odd reason. The steps got louder then, stopped near the garage door, which faced directly across from the room we slept in. A little while after that, as I just started to drift off, I heard the boots again, but this time it was coming from the inside of the room we slept in. I never thought frozen in fear was a thing until that night. The boots got closer to the bed and a loud clank hit the metal rails to the bed, which jolted him awake and me in a frenzy. I remember him looking at me like I had dropped something, and for a minute I thought maybe something had fell, but after we checked under the bed and around the bed, we didn't find anything that could have possibly made that loud noise. It sounded like a metal chain being slammed against the metal railing. The next morning I told his parents, and all they said was, "I told you that was just the one encounter I've had while visiting in that house." My first paranormal experience was actually when I was 5 and my mom told me that story. It still gives me goosebumps till this day.
One of my most unnerving events happened at home late one night. I was about 15 or 16 when it happened. The home my mom and I lived in was right behind my grandparents' house. In the 1940s, it was a business, office, warehouse, loading dock, etc. My grandfather bought it from the original owners, widow, and remodeled it into a home. It was a small, snug home, and you had to go through my bedroom to get to the only closet in the house. It was a big closet, 8x 12 feet, and the way my room was set up, my dresser with mirror was opposite the closet door. I had the closet door open and the overhead light in it was turned on. I was in front of my mirror, practicing putting on makeup, listening to music, and I suddenly noticed that I could see a man reflected in the mirror. He was wearing a black trench coat and had a black fedora pulled down over his face, and he was just leaning against the back wall of the closet. I whipped around to look at the closet, and there was nothing there. Just the cream-colored 80s paneling. No scary man in black. I turned back to the mirror, and he was still there, unmoving. I slowly turned back to the closet. No man, and then back the mirror. Dude is still there. I walked to the closet door, closed it, turned off the light, and I never again left the door open. It had to be closed or I couldn't sleep. I didn't tell my mom for 4 years why I absolutely had to have it shut. I found out later from my grandfather that the closet had originally been the office for the old business.
Visiting the lighthouse in St. Augustine, Florida. Did the night tour and showed up early before sunset and talked to the tour guide. At the base of the lighthouse, while talking, I noticed a girl in one of the windows of the lighthouse, looking down at me, and she waved. I waved back, not thinking twice about it. I asked the guide if there was a tour in the lighthouse, and he said no, it was empty. I mentioned the girl, and he smiled and said, "That's one of our ghosts." Still skeptical, I went to the exact window where the girl was inside the lighthouse and was shocked to see the recess of the window was a solid 2 to 3 feet of concrete. Given the position she was standing, that would have meant her lower torso would have to have been inside the concrete to stand the way she was. She looked absolutely real, and it didn't click until later that she was wearing older period clothing, and also later learning there were 2 children that died there. During the night tour, I was also touched on the shoulder and had whispers in my ear, telling me to hurry up. All of those combined made me a believer. Despite doing numerous ghost hunts previously with lots of captured EVPs from various places, and still having doubts.
My mother-in-law passed away on my child's first birthday. My husband and I didn't know. She had passed. She lived in another state, and it was unexpected. She'd only met my kid once when they were 5 months old, so there's no way they could have any memory of her. The night before we found out she'd passed, we were bathing the baby, and as I was walking from the changing table to get pajamas, it felt like ice-cold fingers tightly gripped my shoulders, so much so that it gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I visibly shuddered. My husband suggested the heater kicked in, and that was what I was feeling. But it was ice-cold and exactly like fingers on my shoulders, and I told him do at the time. The next morning, we were notified that her body had been found, after her brother called in a welfare check on her. The following months, up to 18 months after, I'd say, We had a ton of unusual and unexplainable activity in our brand new house. We were certain it was her. As my kid got a bit older and started talking, she kept talking about the lady all the time. We suspected but never really knew who the lady was. During this entire time, we were in a state of flux, moving frequently, so never got settled enough to unpack family pictures for the walls. We moved again not long after that, and my by then 4-year-old was playing with my husband in the playroom. He had pulled out his wallet, and my kid was flipping through the photos in it. When she got to one picture, she excitedly yelled, "That's the lady!" It was a photo of my late mother-in-law. After that, she never really spoke of the lady again, and today has no memory of that time. Even though my mother-in-law was a kind person, both my husband and I were pretty unsettled by the whole experience.
When I was in 4th grade, I was sitting on the floor in my bedroom and on the phone with my friends doing homework. I was sitting right inside the doorway with my back to the door and hallway, which was weird looking back because I was always afraid of the darker hallway and not being able to see what was going on outside my room. But a little while into the call, I just so happened to turn around and I see this fully solid black figure of somebody walking past my room and into my brother's room next door. It had its hands forward and head down like it was texting on the phone. So originally I thought it was just my brother. He was going through his emo phase at the moment too. So the all black was normal, lol. So I got up and looked into his room and nobody was there. I went to the living room to ask my mom if my brother had just come home and she said no. But the weird thing, I didn't feel scared at all when seeing this shadow figure. It just felt comfortable, which was very much not normal to me in 4th grade. Was terrified of the dark BC of the thought of ghosts, lol. Me and my mom talked about it and just figured it was a guardian angel or something. Ever since that day, I just can't not believe in spirits. And I've had many, many more experiences after then.
Years ago, I worked as a prep sauté cook. I was carrying 2 tubs of cooked pasta to the walk-in, fridge, freezer. To free a hand to open the big door, I balanced the bus tubs on my lifted knee. Before I could reach my hand to the handle, 2 things happened. First, an immediate serious gag cough came over me. One of those out of nowhere tickles in your throat. Second, recoiling from the cough and still balancing the tubs. The walk-in door opens and shuts, actually common. Employees often hard-kicked the door open if their hands were full. I wait a couple seconds for them to open the door and exit. Come on. Nope. I put the tubs down on a table and open the walk-in. Nobody. I walk the 8 feet into the walk-in, fridge to the tiny walk-in freezer. Open the freezer door. Nobody. Every restaurant has its jokers. I even check the shelves to see if someone is hiding. No, I find a place for the pasta and exit the walk-in. As I'm walking away, I hear clicks. I turn to see the walk-in door open and shut 3 times in rapid succession. If anyone is not familiar with walk-ins, they are huge refrigerators. Just as with refrigerators, there is a resistance when one opens the door.
The reason is a sudden pressure change, or sticky gaskets, in that case.
Clean 'em. Walk-ins have a big door, making the pressure change larger. More effort to open. I have no idea. I thought maybe telekinesis. The sudden cough triggered a mental reaction I can't repeat. Moving objects. After all, before the impulse to cough, my full intention was to open the door. My only conclusion is paranormal. A ghost. The place was an old movie theater. Any other ideas? And no tornadic winds were inside or outside the restaurant.